everyone, this is Solve It, a podcast we talk about codes, ciphers, and the history of encryption. I'm Zach Johnson, and co-hosting with me as always,
Sam Che.
Hey Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing really well. It has been a big week, huge week. I have relocated my end of the studio to Louisville, Kentucky. So that has been a really big move this week. It has been slow and steady. Yeah, Solve It North Division, Solve It Kentucky branch.
Yeah, you're our Kentucky office.
Yeah. You're our Tennessee office.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have moved further up into Kentucky. So yeah, I'm even more north now. We had to relocate to get some more space, because the podcast is expanding so much. So I moved into my new offices and yeah, doing well. But it has been a busy week.
Oh, good news.
What's up?
After 6 weeks of being in Texas, Sophie's coming back tomorrow, which is why we're recording.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
I'm like super stoked for you because that has been like an ongoing thing in our conversations. It has just been like, yeah, Sophie's not bad. Like they have to take her phones, da.
Right. Now it sounds like she's in a prison camp.
Yeah.
So she is working at a Christian summer camp, and as a counselor. Actually, she's not a counselor. She's on a media team. But they have their phones put away throughout the week, and so we can talk on Saturday from 1:30 until Sunday at 1:30. So we only have about 24 hours, and we're obviously sleeping for a portion of that. So we have not been able to talk very much for the last 6 weeks, and I'm picking her up from the airport tomorrow at 1, which is usually when we record. So we're recording on Saturday.
I know this is a big week for Solve It Podcast. A lot of new things going on. Huge week.
Are you doing a bit from Back to Work?
Yes. No, I've never listened to that. I've never listened to Back to Work. But I know that you used to always say big week, huge week, and then you'd like tell me a story about how it was from that thing.
I would do it, and again, these are the kind of jokes that I would do. Jokes that just no one could get. But when I would volunteer at back in Bowling Green at my last church, I would volunteer in the elementary wing, and every week the kids would come in. I'd be like, big week? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, huge week? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, good. And I would always do big week, huge week. And they're just like, yeah. And again, it's like, I don't know who that joke's for. Like, those kids don't listen to Back to Work.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's that funny, but I would do it every single week. Big week? Yeah. Huge week? Yeah. Like,
huge week.
Cool. Glad. I had a girl who every week asked her, what did she learn? And every week she told me tectonic plates. I said, okay. She was learning about it. I said, would you learn anything? She said, yeah. What'd you learn? Some science. Oh, cool. What'd you learn in science class? We learned about tectonic plates. Wow. 3 months in a row. That's a lot to go over, I guess.
Yeah. It's just a lot of information about tectonic plates. I mean, there are like a bunch of them. So
that's true.
The teacher's probably like a huge like doomsday prepper for like that new Madrid fault. It's going to get us. Like, you guys need to like stay woke. Little kids.
Stay woke.
Okay, so each week one of us will make a puzzle for the other one to solve using a known system of encryption and explain the history of that system. We have several rules. We have explained the rules in all of our previous episodes, except for the last one. And so if you want to hear those rules, you can go listen to those, or they'll be on our Solve It website. So without further ado, Sam, can you please describe the puzzle that I sent you this week?
Yes. The puzzle you sent me this week was a picture, or it was a portrait of a woman dressed in royal attire, and then you defaced that with MS painting a bunch of symbols all over her face. I think the tweet was "God Save the Queen." Is that correct?
It was God Save the Queen.
Okay.
So, yes. Do you happen to know who that person is?
I do. It was Queen Victoria.
Victoria?
Maybe I'm wrong. Or was it Elizabeth I?
It was neither of those people.
Are you serious?
Yes, it was not Queen Elizabeth I, and it was not Queen Victoria.
Was it? Can I get a third guess?
Yeah, sure.
Was it Mary Queen of Scots?
Huh?
Was it Mary Queen of Scots?
It was Mary Queen of Scots.
Okay.
And Mary Queen of Scots, you're close because Mary Queen is Elizabeth's cousin. And
Oh,
yes, and the one that we spend the most of this episode talking about.
okay, yes. They look
But
very similar.
did you? Yes, they do. I mean, they are cousins, and the
Yeah,
bloodline is pretty not that diverse.
that's fair.
Also, I'm pretty sure like old paintings of queens, like they all kind of look the same. I'm being very prejudiced against queens.
Well, I mean, not to disrespect Mary Queen of Scots or Queen Elizabeth, but they have a very distinctive nose. That's actually why I thought it was Queen Elizabeth, because I saw the painting and then I saw paintings of Queen Elizabeth, and I was like, "Yep, that's certainly the same nose. These must be the same people."
Yeah, yeah. So Sam, did you solve my puzzle?
I did.
You did? Oh my
Wait,
gosh!
you think
Wow.
that I just knew who Mary Queen of Scots was and I hadn't figured out what the puzzle was?
I mean, the first person you guessed was Elizabeth. I thought you were
Yeah,
just like,
the
I thought you were just like spitballing.
first person I guess was Victoria, which was super wrong.
Oh, yeah,
But wait,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. No, yes, no, I figured it out. I figured it out thinking
yeah.
that it
Oh
was Elizabeth.
man,
Wait, okay. Who is Mary's
the
cousin?
person in the paint, yeah, Elizabeth is Mary Queen of Scots' cousin. The
Okay,
person in the picture is Mary Queen of Scots.
I figured it out from
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
up stuff about. I typed in Queen Elizabeth the First cipher and I found it.
yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, boom. All right.
even
Well, I'm
even though
glad I
it
gave you
wasn't
enough information. I was,
their noses. That's what it was. Their noses
I
gave it
was like,
away.
oh yeah. I was honestly like really like concerned. I was like, man, I hope I gave him enough information with this one. But yeah, okay, good. Well, then this is going to be me just telling you a story, and then you being all smarty smart and just getting this puzzle right off the rim. So
It.
congratulations.
I did like
Don't say the answer to it. Oh, they're going to
no
say
no
the
no no.
answer to it.
I like passingly saw. I mean, what I assume the story will be about, but I didn't read anything about it because I was like, okay, let me go through these Wikipedia articles. Let me
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just look at it enough that I can figure out how to do the cipher. But I am excited for what the story's going to be.
Okay, well, let's get this story started. And by the way, this story is incredible. I was researching it and it just got like more and more insane.
Good.
This story really has it all. It has espionage, it has a love affair, it has an explosion at one point. It really, really has it all. And it comes from this family, which really is just like the kookiest family of all history. Like they are just wild. And that family is the Tudors.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, this bananas crazy family. And for those of you who don't know, the Tudors were a group of royalty that kind of control, not kind of, actually controlled England and other neighboring countries from about 1485 to the 1600, and they ruled everything. And they had a lot of bad blood between them because there was so much confusion about who actually was the rightful heir and who was to be the king or the queen. And because of this, they destroyed a lot of relationships that happened in these. They destroyed a lot of relationships that happened in this time period. They really are like the Skywalkers of the Middle Ages.
The blank of
They
blank.
are the blank, the blank of blank. Yeah, they are just one family that has just been ruining everything for everyone for hundreds of years. So this story starts, and it is the rivalry between Elizabeth I and Mary Queen of Scots. And if you know, Elizabeth I, she ascended to the throne in 1558 because she was seen as the rightful heir to the throne as being the daughter of Henry VIII. And a lot of this is where the Tudor line gets a little confusing. Many people believed that Elizabeth was not the rightful heir to the throne because she was illegitimate and that she was Protestant. So a lot of people believe that her Catholic cousin, Mary Queen of Scots, was the rightful heir to the throne because she was the true granddaughter of Margaret Tudor, which was the sister of Henry VIII.
Okay.
So a lot of people believe that she was to be the rightful heir to the throne, but it really became more about Catholic versus Protestant, which one should have control of the throne. But Elizabeth ascended right to the throne, and she had a Protestant rule. And from that point on, Mary starts this entire life of just scheming her way to get to the throne, any throne. So she marries the King of France, and that was a major affront to Elizabeth because it was essentially just like Mary trying to get her way into the royal family in any way that she could. So she tried to by marrying the King of France, and this was seen as like the real start to the rivalry of Elizabeth and Mary. And it continues on there. It continues on from there. In 1560, the King of France died, and she, feeling like she had lost her royalty, she went to Scotland and claimed herself as the Queen of Scotland because of the lineage of the Tudors. And
who was the? Hold on. So
yes.
she was the Queen of France.
No. She was married to the King of France, and he died.
Does that not make her the queen?
No, it would make their heir the king.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, for example, if Queen Elizabeth II died right now,
Sure.
It would go straight to Charles. It wouldn't go to her husband.
Okay.
Yes.
So who was the current ruler of Scotland when she just was like, yo, now it's me? Was there a current ruler of Scotland?
The Scotland was not ruled by royalty. It was ruled by like nobles and like an elite group of people. There was not really like a monarchy set up. They were kind of an extension of England. And Scotland being a primarily Catholic nation, whenever she showed up and was like, hey, I'm the Queen of Scotland now, they kind of welcomed that because they wanted to be in protest to the new Protestant rule. So she goes to Scotland, declares herself the queen, and she asked for Elizabeth's blessing. And she was immediately denied the blessing from Elizabeth because Elizabeth was like, no, that'll create division in my kingdom. And Mary was like, screw it, I'll just do it anyway. After that, in order to continuously establish her rule, in 1565, she married Lord Darnley, who was a grandchild of Margaret Tudor, and who also had claims to the throne. And so that made her rule over Scotland even more powerful because she also had another person that had rightful heir to the throne. This one move destroyed the relationship of Mary and Elizabeth forever because it was a complete affront to her power. This was made even worse because the two had a son named James, who would later on go to become the King of Scotland. But we'll talk about that in just a second. So that family essentially just went into Scotland, claimed their rule, and then began to develop a family that would have continuous rule over that area for a long time. And this is where things get... So this, for usual history of the Tudors and of monarchies in Europe, this is pretty par for the course. Things like this happen all the time. Like lots of backstabbing, lots of walking into areas and claiming your royalty based on some lineage. This happens all the time. But this is where things get a little different, a little more unusual. In 1567, only 2 years after they had been married, Lord Darnley was killed in an explosion. Like, so he was in this building, and the building, yes, this building, it blew up. And although it was seen as an accident, most likely it was caused by this man named James Hepburn. And James Hepburn was an ally of Mary, and get this, he was also a secret lover of Mary.
I think you're just describing last season on Game of Thrones. I think that's just what you're just...
but this is real life. This is a very real thing, that this man came in, killed Lord Darnley, and then this is where it gets crazier. 3 months later, James Hepburn and Mary became married. So they married each other. So the man that is widely considered, and at the time everyone kind of knew, the man that is widely considered to be the murderer of her former husband, now,
Oh.
yeah, they are now like married.
So
Um,
she was married to a guy. They had a son named James. Then a different guy named James blew
yes,
up her husband.
yep, yep.
So she married James too. Now is the child James, is that King James? Is that like the King James Bible? Is that,
Yes. Well, yes, it is. But we'll yeah, I
does that
guess we
come
can talk
up?
about that right now. Yeah, well, not the King James Bible doesn't come up, but the King James comes up. So everyone was notably pretty furious about this new development. And so Scottish nobles, the same Scottish nobles that ran the country beforehand, they staged an uprising, and they kicked Mary out of power, threw her into this giant prison, and then they claimed that James the First, King James, that he was the king of Scotland. And
Okay.
at this time, James was just like a little kid, and they would rather have that little kid be the king of their entire country than Mary. So she was thrown into prison. James is now the Queen of Scotland, and
Nope. James
yes,
is the King of Scotland.
dang it, jeez Louise.
It's fine. We'll leave
Uh,
it.
so I'll say it again, just in case you want to edit it out.
I'm not going to.
So Mary is in prison. James is the King of Scotland, and she reaches out to her cousin for asylum. And at this point in time, it was at a point in the relationship where when Mary said to Elizabeth, like, I want to find solace in your country, Elizabeth allowed it. And so Mary escaped to England, where she would find asylum there. Mary escapes Scotland to England, but at this point in time, she had become super unhinged. Because just 3 years after she had escaped Scotland, a ton of evidence popped up in the form of letters that kind of proved that she had a hand in the death of her husband, the one that had died in the explosion. That she was a part of it, and that she and her lover, James Hepburn, they had kind of plotted together to kill him. So she, in this crazy state, was put in house arrest. And she was put in house arrest by this guy named Francis Wellingham. And Francis Wellingham is the guy that we'll talk about now with the cipher. So all that is the background information leading up to the cipher. So we have to know now is that Mary is in prison. There is a huge conflict between the Catholics and the Protestants in this time period. And there is question of who is the rightful heir to the throne. And all of this comes down to 1585 in this bar called The Plough with a man named Anthony Babington. And Anthony Babington, with a bunch of other men, came up with this plot. It is now known as the Babington Plot. And the idea was to stage an uprising in England, restore Catholicism, and appoint Mary, Queen of Scots, as the rightful heir of England. So Anthony Babington decides he needs to write a message to Elizabeth, who's in her house arrest. And needs to get a message to her, but he needs to write it in a certain way, because you can't just write like in your language that you're going to kill the Queen of England and appoint someone new as the heir. Like that would be crazy.
Seems problematic.
Yeah, it's problematic. So Babington writes it in this style of cipher that is well known in Catholic circles. So he didn't have to send a cipher beforehand explaining what each symbol meant, because when Mary saw it, she was a part of those Catholic circles, and she would have known exactly what each symbol meant. Much like if I sent you a pigpen cipher, you would know exactly what each symbol meant because we've seen them before.
Question: why did the Catholic Church have a cipher? What was this? Where'd that
I
cipher?
no
Where did that come
that
from?
is even I could not find that. I was looking
Really?
into that like I was looking into that the most. I could not find why on earth they like these like underground Catholic things, underground Catholic like clubs had this cipher. I could not find that information.
Are there things? Are underground Catholic clubs real? Is that a
I
thing?
I don't know. They have this super secret language. They just like because someone had to come up with that and get it so well known that whenever Mary sees it, she's like, "Oh yeah, duh. This is that thing that we all know what it is."
You've just checked all of the boxes in my head to become really obsessed with something.
I know. Well, if you can find that answer, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, because whenever I was like doing the research, it just like said that it was like, oh yeah, and this thing known in many Catholic circles, and I was like, hold on,
Why? Why is
what?
it known in many Catholic circles?
Wait.
What do you
What?
mean?
Yeah. So,
That's fascinating, but it sounds like a bad plan on Babington's part.
not really,
Really?
because
Because
I,
the Queen's a Protestant, so she wouldn't know it.
I guess so. But not only that, the Queen's Secret Service didn't know it either,
Wow.
and that insteps this man named the Francis Wellingham. Francis Wellingham, who was the man that suggested that Mary put on house arrest, and he really is like the father of the British Secret Service, and he was the one that had all these spies working across London. He was very, very aligned with Elizabeth I, and because he had all of these spies working everywhere, he knew that something was up, and he knew that there was a cipher present. And he knew that because inside the Babington circle of those plotters, he had put in a double agent, and that double agent's name was Gilbert Guilford. His job was to get the letter from Babington to the Queen with no one knowing what's going on. And he did that through hiding the letter in a barrel. So there were several barrels that they would use to drink beer out of because water back then was really iffy. So they would hide the letter in a barrel, and then the Queen's guards would find it and then give it to her. So Gilbert, he had the cipher written down from Babington, and he would just rewrite the entire thing, and then he would give it over to Walsingham, and Walsingham would give it to this other guy. And this is where I think that like there really could have, if there had been that information offhand, he would have just known. But it was given to this guy named Thomas Phillips, who was a master code breaker. The cipher that I sent you, like the last one I sent you, is a substitution cipher,
Right.
where each symbol means a letter. And he had, like, whenever he saw it, it took him forever to crack it, because with the substitution cipher, there are so many possible outcomes to which each letter could be, or each symbol could be. So he had to use the same thing that we talked about last time, which was frequency analysis, to find out exactly what it said. So he had to go through and break it down symbol for symbol using the frequency analysis, which leads me to believe that those Catholic clubs that had that information, that it was not cracked until that point. So essentially, prior to him cracking that cipher, that was just a secret language that only those really specific clubs had.
Crazy.
Yeah, another reason to be obsessed with that. Um,
Yeah. Something Stonehenge, something Freemasons. I'm into this.
something Illuminati,
You've got
something
me.
Kanye West, something.
Yeah, we should talk. We should talk someday about uh, the Illuminati and how a, a group that is supposedly run by rich white men who rule the world, and but everyone that's always accused of being in the Illuminati is a successful black person, because some people
Yeah.
can't imagine a world where black people are successful. So
No,
it must be
not,
some great conspiracy, and they were given power by white men. That must be what happened.
man, that sounds like something a Slytherin would say.
Whatever, man. It's just there's this, you know, beyond the craziness of, yeah, okay, the power going out at the Super Bowl does not mean that Beyonce's in the Illuminati. There is this like racist undertone of man, is it really that hard for you to imagine that like Jay-Z and Rihanna and Beyonce are just like successful Black people? Like, is that so hard to imagine? Right. And it's under this guise of we want to expose this powerful group of white people that are holding down the world. And it's like, no, you are the powerful group of white people holding down the world. And you cannot fathom a world where Black people could be more successful than you. Like, you are the Illuminati, metaphorically, making these videos suggesting that Black people could never be successful. And it's
and that concludes this week of Sam's Rants.
I mean, obviously I'm obsessed with puzzles, so I've looked at a lot of Illuminati videos, and that seems to be what I've taken away from it. Whatever.
The only thing I've taken away from YouTube videos is the moon may or may not exist. That is all I really have.
It may or may not be hollow.
Yeah. Made by ancient Egyptians for whatever reason.
Oh, gosh.
So Thomas Phillips ended up breaking the code because using the frequency analysis, the letter was like several pages. And so he was able to find out what the code was. So the letter said that 6 people would carry out the assassination of Elizabeth I, but they couldn't get Mary until she sent back a letter saying that she confirmed the hit. So Mary falls right into their plot, and she sends back a letter written in that same cipher where she confirms the hit, and she says, like, let's carry this out. Let's kill the Queen of England.
Okay.
And yeah, so immediately everyone attached to the plot is arrested. Babington is tortured and executed, and the way he's executed is insane. It was the harshest execution that like you could do. It was at one point he was hung, and he was hung until he was about to die, and then they like saved him, and then they did it again.
Oh.
And then they saved him again, and then eventually they just like disemboweled, like ripped him all to shreds. So just in case you're traveling through time, do not plot against the Queen, or something like that will happen to you. And Mary is executed, just not in the harsh way, but she is beheaded. So not as harsh of a punishment, but everyone attached to that plot was killed, and Elizabeth I went on to become like this amazing queen in the history, but only through being so ruthless to the people that tried to kill her. So back to the cipher. The cipher I sent you was that same exact, the Babington cipher written across the face of Scots. And you said you solved it, but for those of you that still don't know how to solve it, it is a substitution cipher. So you would find out which letters are used the most, and then you can kind of piece together from that. I also explained that on the episode that I previously talked about. Or if you want to be really lazy, you can just look up the Babington cipher, decode it, and it will tell you which each symbol means.
That's what I did.
So, yeah, because you're not about to do the
frequency analysis takes a really long time. In fact, I did it last episode and took a really long time.
Yeah. So, Sam, what is the answer to the puzzle?
For Queen and Country.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us this week on Solve It. I'm Zach Johnson, co-hosting with Sam Cherry. You can find us both on Twitter at @OneZachJohnson and at Samuel_Cherry_, or you can find us on the Solve It podcast on Instagram and Twitter, which is at Solve It Podcast. Or you can follow us on our website, solveitpodcast.com. And I was challenged last week with this, and I will say that I came through. You can now find us on Myspace at Solve It Podcast. So if you are still using Myspace, you can find us on there. So we are now followable on almost all forms of social media. I'm still gonna make a LinkedIn or a WhatsApp for us, or some other thing we think of. But join us next week when Sam teaches us how to figure out whether or not a top is still spinning. Thanks. Bye.